Hi folks, I want to welcome you to Realtor Talk. This is brought to you by the Greater Pocatello Association of Realtors, and we've got a pretty fun topic today. We're going to be talking about new construction lending, and also we've got the Parade of Homes coming up in the next 10 days, and so we're going to spend some time on that. I've got a great panel with me today. I'm Shawn Bridger. I'm with RE/MAX Country Real Estate. I'm the vice president there, and also been a real estate agent for 15 years here locally. So I'll let Heath and Gary and Ryan introduce themselves and tell you who we are.
I'm Heath Fullmer, Fullmer Construction, and also the president of the BCA SEI.
I'm Gary Clay. I'm the parade chairman this year, also vice president and real estate loan officer with Citizens Community Bank.
And I'm Ryan Ward. I'm senior vice president with Citizens Community Bank and work over all the real estate lending and work with Gary. So.
I thought we'd maybe start off today with asking Ryan some questions, and really the magic question everyone wants to know, I get asked it every day, is are the banks loaning money for new construction?
Yes, we are, and if we aren't lending money, then we're probably going to go out of business. So we get asked that question quite often, and I think it's in all aspects of lending, not just the construction lending, but commercial, consumer. That's the engine that makes the banks run, and so. With construction lending, we still have a fair amount of pre-sold constructions that are, or construction loans that are going. We don't have a lot of spec lending going on at this point in time, mainly because we don't have a lot of requests for them. Mm-hmm. But definitely we're in the business of lending, and we want to keep it that way. So
great. I thought maybe we could talk to everybody about maybe the process that a buyer needs to go through. Let's just say that a buyer has found themselves a builder. They also have found the lot they want to buy. They're ready to do their construction loan. What's the next step? What do we do from here?
Well, usually, once the builder and the buyer have come together, and they usually have a fairly good idea of what they're going to be looking at as far as the plans and the design and so forth. So usually at that point, we as a lender will ask the borrower to bring into us, which usually gets translated over to the builder, a cost breakdown of the project, which usually not always do the builders have them detailed out as far as what each point of it is, but the builders will usually provide us with a cost breakdown, a description of materials, which gives us an idea of what the finished product will be, what kind of flooring you're going to be put in, what kind of walls, how high are the ceilings, all those different things, so that the appraiser ultimately can appraise the home based on what the final product will be.
So on the cost breakdown, they're going to use the builder to do this, I take it?
That's correct.
So any input on that, Heath?
Yeah, we've got a two-page breakdown that we use, and it, just like Ryan says, it's got all the breakdowns for the subcontractors and what they do, and the materials and everything that you need to get a bottom figure so that the appraiser can come in and appraise it the right way.
Okay, so once you got the cost breakdown, you run through next is the appraisal process.
Mm-hmm. And the appraisers will they'll base their value on overall cost, square footage, what the market has out there for sales comparisons. One of the things that we have run into over the last few years is that we have to go off of 80% of cost. We can't necessarily use appraised value if there's an additional equity position there. We can do that if they've owned their ground for more than a year. So if you've owned the ground for less than a year, they just picked the lot up, we have to go off the cost of the lot plus construction, whatever the builder's profit and overhead and so forth is. We have to go off of that based on the guidance and the regulations we get from Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, right, as far as the mortgages are concerned. But once we basically have the value, we will typically lend 80% of the value or cost. And once that's determined, usually a lot of people will want to own their lot before they come in. Mm-hmm. There were many years there that we all enjoyed that we had appraisals that came in pretty, they were moving up quickly, and values were moving in a short period of time, 6 months. By the time you get done, you could reappraise it and have a different situation. Right. But for the most part, it's nice to have the lot free and clear. it's hard to find a construction loan for over 80% without a lot of compensating factors.
So do you, are you guys using the lot, compensating the lot in there as part of the equity of that 20%?
That's correct.
So if I own the lot, you calculate that in as part of my 20% equity position?
Correct. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. And so the lot, you know, any cash that you're investing in the project, sweat equity is not, you know, that's always a perception I think that's out there. Unless you're building it, a lot of times it's difficult to do that. And sweat equity is just a situation that it's kind of thrown out the door anymore. It's a hard cost in where we're at. So.
Gotcha. Okay. So you get somebody qualified, and pretty much, I guess we'd say Heath cuts loose and starts building a house. So how does it go from there? Heath, you start building a house, and you get the first bunch finished up, and it's time to pay some bills. And so at that point, we submit for a draw from you.
That's correct.
And
Yep. Yeah, we've done that before, and it's been different in the past. Nowadays, I've had a talk with Gary before, and he kind of let me know, because it just so happens that we're doing a spec with Citizens, and the way it'll run is I'll have a bill made out from Fullmer Construction. It'll have a list of all the subs and what they're getting paid, and then the checks will automatically be cut from Citizens, and then we'll get the checks to the subs, or they can come in, sign lien waivers, and then the checks will go to them right then and there.
Gotcha. How much time does it take right now to build, say, an average size house, maybe 1,500 square feet, start to finish? What are you looking at in today's market, time-wise?
You know, everything's so good right now, and there's not a lot of construction going on, so the stuff that is going on can be done pretty fast. So your 1,500 square foot ranch house is maybe going to take you maybe 4 months, maybe 4.5.
Okay. So we get the house finished, everybody's paid, so it's time to do a perm loan. What are some of the, I mean, I know right now rates have never been better. I mean, I'm hearing numbers into the 4s for a 30-year fixed rate. So we come back to you, and it's time to perm out the loan. What do we do from here? There's a lot of confusion out there about that.
Yeah, and typically, you know, a lot of times we'll be doing the second part of the loan, which is it's usually called a construction permanent mortgage, but it gets treated like a refinance more or less, where you come in and you refinance the construction balance and do it on a 30-year, 20-year, 15-year, 10-year, whatever you choose to do. And as far as qualifying for those, we typically, I shouldn't say we typically, always qualify people that way for the long-term mortgage before the new construction is even started, so that you know you have an option for them when it's all said and done. And at that point, you know, we have to go through an automated underwriting system, and then we turn around and we sell the mortgages to the secondary servicing company, or we keep them. So it's one or the other, depending on the situation. To be qualified for them, you know, you're looking, you know, anymore you have a minimum 620 credit score. Very difficult to find financing with a credit score below 620. There are options that are out there, but they do get more expensive, and there's other lenders that may specialize in that particular area. Right. Debt to income ratios, you know, those are some things that have changed a little bit in the last few years. You know, when somebody takes their total debt with the house payment, any car payments, any type of installment or credit cards, you add all of that up, and you usually need to have them be between the 45 and 50%, on the very high end 50% of your total gross income before taxes are taken out.
FHA allow you to go to 50. Conventionally, you have to be at 45.
Right. Yeah. And so that's why I kind of put that variance in there, because it kind of depends on the situation that you're going with. So, you know, and money out of pocket, you know, that all comes down to what does the borrower want to do, or what can the borrower do. Right. And all those things are obviously going to change what your ultimate loan amount is, what your payment's going to be, and so forth. So,
question I've got is, when you're doing the construction loan, you know, everyone's trying to avoid mortgage insurance by having 20% down. So if the home builder has 20% down when they do the construction loan, are they going to avoid MI mortgage insurance on their permanent loan, or does it start all over again on the permanent loan?
Well, you know, if they put 20% cash down, or they've had that ground for a year or more, you can use the actual purchase price of that ground, and you just prove it through a settlement statement from, you know, that's what you get when you actually purchase the ground.
Right.
And I know you know that, but for the average person here, but that's what we will prove the value with there, or they have the cash amount of total costs. And yes, they would avoid mortgage insurance on that. There are a few circumstances where people may upgrade, and a lot of times, and that's a topic that's interesting too, people don't realize that just because you upgrade one particular part, maybe it's flooring, doesn't necessarily, you may spend $5,000 extra on flooring and you may get $500 in value. It becomes more of a personal preference. So we run into these upgrade problems sometimes, and we end up maybe having to have people run into some mortgage insurance if they upgraded to that point.
Understand. Okay. And isn't there some pretty neat first-time home buyers? I know first-time home buyers can build homes too, and this isn't just for existing home buyers. And so, are there any really neat programs out there right now, Gary, for first-time home buyers?
Well, you know, really for a first-time home buyer, again, depending on what they want that loan-to-value to be, you know, as a first-time home buyer, if you've got a down payment, then you'd qualify just like somebody else that wasn't a first-time home buyer. But there are first-time home buyer programs through Idaho Housing and through FHA programs that allow a first-time home buyer to have less money down, as little as 3.5% down, and still qualify. Now again, depending on the construction loan in the long term, that 3.5% down, that's going to be the qualification for that long-term financing. Because again, on the construction loan, we run those construction loans at 80% loan to value.
Right.
And so we'd have to know that they are approved for that long-term financing as a first-time home buyer through Idaho Housing, and then we can look to see if we want to make any, you know, concessions between the construction loan and the long-term financing.
Great.
And you know, an option out there as well that has had a little challenge lately is rural development. And this, you know, Bannock County area has plenty of areas that qualify for the rural development, and there's other counties up and down the valley here. But that's something that has become much more popular as the markets have changed a little bit. And they provide 100% financing, and they charge a funding fee, is what they call it, which is more or less prepaid mortgage insurance. So that's another option with first-time home buyers that are out there too.
And so if I have a customer that wants to build a new home out in the county, say that they own 5 acres, it's the same rules apply then? They need to own the ground up to a year?
That's correct.
To have that, okay.
Right. Yeah, if they want to go at 80% of the appraised value, they have to own that land for at least a year. If they don't own it for the year, then it goes back to the 80% of cost.
I understand. Well, sounds great. We're going to take a quick break right now. When we get back, we're going to talk to Heath a little bit about what's going on in Pocatello, who's building. I think we can probably figure out something to talk about. You know plenty of that.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, great.